Hey everybody, it's Doug Schauf with Remax Oceanside and Make Maine Your Home.com. Today we're going to talk about how to handle issues during the home inspection. Let's do this. All right, everybody, like I said, we're going to talk about how to handle inspection issues. Very common when you're buying a house, you go under contract, you go to inspect the house, and inevitably something comes up. Every house has something wrong with it that the inspector might find. And a lot of buyers, or a lot of times, everybody's like, "Oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? Oh my goodness, the house is going to fall over. I can't buy it now. I'm going to be living in a cardboard box." So I just want to kind of talk through about what happens when those things do arise, and how do we get through them, and what are some good things to help you out and put you a little bit at ease. Let's jump right in. First off, when we're talking about inspections, we're talking about a home inspection that is the buyer's responsibility to inspect the house. The bank, like the lender, the mortgage company, isn't necessarily involved in this process. This home inspection is for you as the buyer to take a close look at the house and ultimately decide if it is the right house for you. When you first go under contract on a house, typically there is a contingency for inspections. In this hot real estate market that we're in,
So hot right now.
and some people are waiving inspections. I'm not a huge fan of, but unfortunately you need to be competitive. So it's up to you as a buyer. Consult your real estate broker, your realtor, if that's the right thing for you or not. Let's assume that you go under contract. Usually the first contingency is the inspection period, the due diligence period. And you'll have a period of time that you can evaluate the house, bring in an inspector, a professional inspector, to go through the house and evaluate it and see if there's any issues with it. So that's your due diligence period. Now, like I said, inevitably something comes up. An inspector always finds something. Most of the time, you might just find a lot of little stuff and you might not really need to ask for anything. Or maybe you go back to the seller and say, "Hey, I want a couple of these things taken care of." Sometimes you find major things like the septic system's not working properly or the furnace is about to explode. I'm joking. Something along those lines. Or there's mold in the attic is a big one. So a lot of these things can come up. And this is where you got to decide who's going to do what. Now, me as a real estate broker, I help guide my clients to come up with the best solutions there. And basically, we're just going to talk to the seller and maybe present something as a buyer like, "Hey, this is what we would like you to do for us." And you got to remember, this is a negotiation. So it's like if you're asking for a bunch of money back, which is one way to do it, you could just say, "Hey, all of these things that are wrong is going to cost $10,000. So I would like $10,000, either a price reduction or maybe $10,000 towards my closing costs." So that's way it's cash in your hand, and you can do some of the work that way. And there's a document that we use. We call it an ICA. It's an inspection contingency amendment or addendum, one of those two. I'll have to look that up. I've been using it for so long. We just call it the ICA. And this is just a quick document that says that, hey, whoever's going to do this work, if they agree to it, if both parties agree to it, you spell it all out on what you're going to get done or pay for, or how the money's going to be dispersed. Both parties sign on it, and then the due diligence period is over and you move on. You also, if you're in the due diligence period, you as a buyer also have the option of walking away. That can be part of your negotiation strategy. The good and bad thing is if you walk away, the seller is now going to have to disclose the information that you found. Okay, by regulation, they have to disclose those things. So a lot of times a seller will do something to help you because they know that they're going to have to go back on the market and disclose these findings. If the market is very, very hot, it's very much a seller's market, depending on when you're watching this video. The seller might take the road of "I'm not doing anything, I'll just find another buyer." But if the market shifts a little bit and goes more to a normal market or a buyer's market, sellers will be more willing to do certain things and give money towards that type of thing. Now, I had some notes here just to kind of talk a little bit about what the buyer and the seller are responsible for. But really, those things kind of depend on what you negotiate. Oftentimes, if you're the buyer, you're going to be the one saying, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, can you take care of these items?" And then you'll spell out that the seller is responsible for that, or maybe the buyer is responsible for that. And the ICA will dictate those terms. So hopefully that all makes sense. But that's the issues with a home inspection. I always kind of remind my buyers that Look, none of this is really a big deal. Everything can be fixed. It doesn't have to be a stressful process, but we can work through just about everything. And most importantly, if you do have the due diligence period there, you as a buyer, we can pull you out if there's anything major wrong and you can't come up to with an agreement with the seller. So hopefully this helps. Comment below. Let me know some issues that you maybe ran into, when you inspected your house that you're living in. Would love to hear about that. And hit me up on email, social media, all that stuff. And remember, if you make Maine your home, you don't have to do it alone.
It's really good. I'm very glad I